In this part, we're going to make some blocks. So first is we need a block prefab. So we're going to take one of these, it doesn't matter which one, just drag it into the scene, and then we're going to drag it into the prefabs, and we'll call it block prefab. We technically don't need this anymore in the game. We have the prefab. What we're going to do with the prefab, we're going to add a component. Do I have it here? And it's going to be a it's going to be a 2D, let me see, 2D collider, yeah, 2D box collider. Okay, and that is for the clicking. When you click on this, we want, you need a collider for the clicking part. So let's get working on the script. So if we go to the block script, we're going to need some variables. So the first, actually we don't need all of these. We just need these three at the beginning. So a block needs a row and column, where we want to know its row and column. We want to know if it's filled or not. And also we want the sprite renderer, because the blocks will be changing images often, so we would like to have an access to that. So we'll do an awake. We'll get the sprite renderer on awake. We'll also have a function to initialize the block. So when we make the block, we want to give the to initialize the rows and columns. In the beginning, we'll make this equal to false at the beginning of the game. We are going to change the sprites often, so let's have a function. So this is what we'll do. Essentially what you're doing is either you're having it filled or not filled. Right now we don't have a group here yet, so I'm going to comment this out right now, because we're going to do the group later. So, but every time we click on a block, if it's filled, we want to unfill it. If it's not filled, we want to fill it, etc. So let's comment that out. And let's add a getter and a setter here. So this is what we do. If somebody actually changes the fill, we are going to call that function, right? So that would be automatic when somebody changes the value of this. So now that we have the block, we can start making some of them. So let's go to level, and we're going to need, let's see what we have here. Oh yeah, so we need the block prefab, right? This will be our template. For placing the blocks, we're going to need some positioning variables. We want to offset from the center. We also might want a gap between them, and also we'll scale them. So if we want to control any one of these for the blocks, we'll have these variables ready to go. So if you remember, in our start, we did retrieve the data, and now we need to call the function initialize blocks. And that will actually instantiate all the blocks. Okay, let's put that function down here. I'm going to put it down here. And this function, I think I have it here. So initialize blocks, you'll get the level data, right? So you pass in the level data. And I'm going to calculate the offset based on the scale and the size, because they're going to be different for every level. I think this does the job. We then need to initialize our matrix using sides and sides. And now we're going to loop twice, or two nested loops, because we are making a matrix here, right? So this get length gets the number of rows, and this gets the number of columns. Although in this case, they're always the same. I could use sides here too, it doesn't matter. So inside the loop, the first thing we need to do is calculate the position of this block. So we're going to use the offset, we're going to use the columns and the rows and the gap to set its separation from the previous block. Once we have the position, we can actually instantiate the object. So this is we're going to use that prefab, we're going to put the position here, and here's the rest of the command. Once we have the object, we are going to use our scale if we want to transform it. I like to give every one of these objects a name. So if I look at it in the hierarchy, I could look at the object and it'll say what row and column it's on. And the last part is to get the block component. This is the script, right? So we know that it's on the prefab. We'll get the script, we'll initialize it, its rows and columns. So what we're doing is we're calling this function right here, initialize. So we're setting the object's row and column, and then we're also putting it into the right slot in the matrix. Okay, so that's the script to initialize the blocks. We do have to give the level the prefab though. We have to give it the prefab, which we didn't do yet. So we're going to save everything. We're going to go to the project. We're going to go to the scene, game scene, and save everything. We're going to go to the level, and you see there's a slot here for the prefab, block prefab. So let's drag that in, otherwise you're going to crash. It won't have the template. So now we can test this out. So I'm going to go back to the menu scene. And I'm going to go and run it. And if I click level 1, it looks like it made a few of them. Let's see, just made one. So let me check this out. Okay, so what happened is didn't add the script to the object. We're trying to retrieve the script here, but I never added it to the prefab. So let me go to the prefab and right here and add a new component called block right here. So that should take care of that error. And if I run it, okay. So looks like we have, let me run it with 2. Looks like we're getting these blocks. Let me do it maximize on play and run. Okay. Okay, so that's a little too big here with the 1, 2, 3, 4 with the 9. So we have to reduce the size here. So I reduced the scale to 60.65, and that worked pretty well. So if I run it at the max, it looks like it fits. I could move this over a little bit, but anyway, not going to worry about that too much. So we have the block showing up. Pretty good.